Good morning, this is David Rizzo with Rogers Gardens, and today we're going to go over the monthly checklist, which is May. So May in the garden. So May, there's so many things going on in the garden, but May is a good transition month. We're coming out of the cooler part of spring. We're slowly starting to get warmer and warmer. We've had some cool weather, we've had a little rain, but even like next week we're supposed to be in the mid 70s, almost to the low 80s. So this is a good time of year. I always tell people plant, because this is when we have the most amount of material, from the roses to the vegetables. And so I'm going to go through each area, and then we're going to hold the questions for last. And one thing I want to go over though before we get started on events. So next week is next week is going to be the Herb Festival. So May 19th to the 28th, so it goes in the next week after that. So watch for the Herb Festival. That's going to be fun. And this weekend, we're doing Peppermania. So if you guys are into hot peppers and any kind of peppers, we bring in like about 30, 40 different varieties of peppers. So that's really cool if you guys come in, and that will run all the way to Monday. So let's get into the veggies. So right now, on the coast, you can actually still do lettuce. Farther inland, I'll start transitioning away from the winter vegetables. So that's why. So I ripped out my broccoli, cauliflower is done. Kale and Swiss chard will keep on going through the summer. They're a little bit more heat tolerant, but definitely like celery and all that stuff. And then I'll go through more stuff. But let's go through, and I'm going to just pick up a couple peppers. And so let me move this so I don't tip it over. So we're getting in a good amount of peppers because it's Peppermania. So I got cayennes and serranos, and I got some of the hot peppers like the ghost peppers. One of my favorites though, even though the label broke, Fatali. I love Fatali. Fatali is a really good hot pepper, and peppers they rate in Scoville units, and Fatali's like a jalapeno would be like 6,000. A Fatali is like 300,000. So watch out with some of those hot peppers. Hatch peppers I like. What else did we brought in? Let's see. More serranos and shishitos, and so one of my favorites right here too. It's a little I love the Italian roasting peppers. So this is Gypsy. Gypsy is a good sort of longer bell pepper, and it's an Italian pepper. You got like Corno di Toro, and there's a whole bunch of Jimmy Nardello. So these are the good frying peppers. And so we're getting all those. And one of the things that I'm happy to announce that I finally was able to bring them in is I'm bringing in my tomato plant. So there goes the shameless plug. So these are Rizzo's tomatoes, and so I grow, actually I have my side business and I grow these tomatoes at home, and I grow about 1,300 of them. So if you want some of the really cool heirlooms, I just brought in a shipment. Pink Berkeley tie-dyes, Afternoon Delights. I have a lot of dwarfs too. I like Katydid and Firebird Sweet and Audrey's Love. And so this one is Katydid. This is a good slicing dwarf, medium-sized fruit, sort of a yellow fruit. Really good flavor on this one. What's this one? Let's see. This one's Audrey's Love. Audrey's Love is more like a little tomato, like a paste tomato. What else did we bring up? And so this one is Melanie's Ballet, which is another dwarf. It's a little pink, more of like a paste tomato. So those are my tomatoes. But one thing with tomatoes, you want to plant them now. You don't want to wait, because we've had a cool spring, so you want to get them in before we really go more into May. So my target time to plant tomatoes for me is always mid to late April to early May. And so I'm going to really go through, and I'm going to prep my beds this week. I'm going to use my Malibu compost. I'm going to use my earthworm castings. If you have heavy clay, you might look at the Garden Bloom planting mix. It has more sand in it, and it helps break the clay up. If you have raised beds, always make sure the water's draining through those raised beds. And sometimes I'll take a compost, even like a Malibu, worm castings, and I'll work it through. And if it still doesn't drain, use a little bit of pumice. Like pumice comes in a bag. Let me grab it. Pumice comes in a bag, and just use a little bit. So what you're doing is you're making like a rich cactus mix, but it's not draining that much. So that's for raised beds. And so now it's planting. So with those, so we have the vine types, the bush types. So plant tomatoes. It's time of season. I'm going into the other vegetables. So you have cucumbers you can start planting. So I brought up a few cucumbers. Like I do like the Persian cucumbers. I don't know what I did with that one though, but oh, here it goes right here. So the Persian cucumbers are these are little trailing cucumbers. These don't really vine that much, so you can let them sprawl around the ground. And sometimes what I do is I'll plant them below my tomatoes and just let them sprawl around. Japanese cucumbers are vining cucumbers, so you want to trellis these on a higher trellis. So that's with those. You have the little Mexican sour gherkins. These are really, really good. They're sort of sour and they sort of have a melon flavor to them. So they're a little tiny vine that climbs. You can start doing all your squash. So I brought up spaghetti squash. That's more of a trailer. That one's a good one to use. I got patty pans and a bunch of them. Like here they go right here. I just pulled them. So yeah, so there's another one that's called Mexican squash, and this is a good one it's a zucchini and it's littler. So that's a good one, but very tender, very little. What's this one up front? Oh, these are your patty pans or your scallop squash. One thing to remember with the patty pans, these are a bush squash just like your zucchini are, but don't let them get really big when you harvest them. Pick them smaller so they're tender.
Looks like we're having a little bit of a connection issue with Instagram. So what I might do is I might have to end the live on Instagram, but we'll be live still on Facebook.
Okay, we're having problems. We're having technical difficulty with our Instagram, but we're going to do it on Facebook.
Yeah, and we can post a video on Instagram a little bit later.
We'll repost later on Instagram. So if anybody's watching on Instagram, you might have to switch over to Facebook. We're having technical difficulty on that. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to end the video on Instagram.
Okay.
Okay.
We're still going on Facebook, guys, and so now still with all the stuff, so all the vegetables. And so I didn't really see that many beans, but I brought some seeds up. French fillet beans are one of my favorite. Emery Ripe, love them. They're a taller, really skinny French fillet bean, but this is a pole bean. You got a really gold one that I like called Rock d'Or. Rock d'Or is really tender, but one thing with beans, keep picking them and make sure they get enough water and just keep going with them. Let me see what else I got. I brought up, I love the little butternut squash. This is one called Honey Nut. That's a little miniature one. Let's see, and then I love doing the mixed packs of Renee Shepherd seeds. This is your patty pan mix, so it's a green, a light green, and a yellow, but again, pick them small, but you want to put like 1 or 2, even 3 seeds in a little cluster. And then here goes other ones that I like. I like the Italian squash, like the Romanescos. In Italy, they'll use the flowers and they'll stuff it with cheese and even a little bit of rice, and they'll fry them. So, and even like a whole squash, so Romanesco is a good one. You have the straight necks and the crook necks. They get bigger, but with those two, again, don't wait to pick them. Pick them small. That's the biggest thing with squash. Pick them when they're little and tender. So that's with those. Let me set these down. Going through more of the vegetables. Here goes Tasty Green. That's a good cucumber. That's another one of those Japanese cucumbers that loves the vine. So that's a good one right there, too. Another thing that I will talk about, you really still have a chance to put in some of your root vegetables. So like carrots, beets, radishes. Don't wait. I grabbed Sunshine Mix. You have beets, rainbow mix, and with doing these, I'll do a little row, sometimes 2 feet long, about a ½ inch deep, and I'll put my seeds in there. I always make sure the soil is deep when I'm planting root crops, but I don't thin. I know a lot of people thin. What I do is I make sure that bed is prepped so it's nice and deep. I don't have to thin. Thinning, you'll still get large crops, or you'll still get straight, larger carrots, but it has to be deep. It has to be about 12 inches, 14 inches. That's important. Beets, that holds true. The looser the soil, the better that can shoot those roots down. So, yeah, so you can do all the carrots like the Nazis, and even with the beets, you can do the gold beets, you can do the Chiyogas, but do them before June, because beets and carrots and radishes will germinate really good now. When it gets hotter in June, they won't germinate as good. So that's with the root crops. Now you're ready to start planting your corn. So corn's coming in. the sweet corn. I like this one. This is a good corn for most smaller gardens. This is a dwarf corn called Casino by Renee's. It gets about 6 feet tall. You get about 2 ears per stalk. The thing to remember with corn, when you're planting the seeds, I'll directly plant the seeds in the ground, but I'll put them 12 inches apart, but I do a box pattern. So 1 seed here, 1 seed here, 1 seed here, because if you put them too close, the leaves will cover up the silks and they won't get pollinated. So that's important for the corn. So you can do the white corn, but it gets big, but I like the little dwarf Casino. That's a good one. Now's the time to start doing your edible sunflowers. So the mammoth gray stripe, brought it 2 varieties of mammoth gray stripe. These will get tall, they'll get 9 to 10 feet tall, so stake them. Water them good. Watch them. Sometimes the birds can get the sunflowers if you don't watch it, but sunflowers grow really quick. Just make sure you put them in full sun. Even if I have a hard time finding tomatillos, and I did bring one up. Actually, I did bring one up. So Tama Verde is one of the better tomatillos. I love green chili salsa, so tomatillos are so good for that. Always plant tomatillos together in 2 to 3 plants because they cross-pollinate each other. Don't overfeed them. You can amend the soil, but if you feed them too much, you'll get these big plants and no flowers. And you want to pick the fruit before it drops off the plant because you're picking it more tart. So when the husks start cracking, pick the fruit. And if you can't find the plants, always just buy the seeds. There's another one that I like to get from seeds that's called Cisneros. Cisneros is a really good one. So that one, if you want a big, more juicier tomatillo. Cilantro, I keep doing cilantro right now, but as we go closer into June, it's going to have a hard time. It's going to start bolting, but I'll do little amounts and maybe put it in partial sun. But I like to direct sow the seeds. The seeds can be slow to germinate. Soak them in water overnight, and that will help them germinate quicker. So this is a variety called Long Standing or Santo. So Santo is a good one. I'll be planting some of mine this week. And so that's more with the veggies. Let's go through herbs, flowers. We have a lot to cover. And so now with herbs, it is planting time for all your herbs. So I have my basil. My basil's coming in, like all my sweet basil right here. So I love the sweet basil for my making my marinara sauce and putting on my pizzas. I love the Thai basil, your lemon basil. This is a little oregano called Mexican oregano. I love this. I pinch off a little tip of it, and then I just hold it and I strip the leaves, and that's what I use on my pizzas and my marinara. So and then you have borage. Borage gets some nice little white-blue flowers that are edible, so you can plant borage right now. We're getting little miniature moringa trees, so if you guys are into making the moringa tea, I'm getting some of the moringa trees, so that's really cool. Finally got some parsley in, so some good flat Italian parsley's coming in. What else? And so you got the narrow leaf sage is really your good cooking sage they make brown butter with. Getting orange thyme, English thyme. I didn't bring up French thyme, but that's another good one that I'll be planting right now. I love lemon verbena. So one of my favorite things to put in green tea, lemon verbena for a lemon substitute. One of my favorite rosemary, Spice Island. I love this one for cooking. I love to mix it with potatoes and bell peppers and rosemary. It's so good. And so more parsley. We're getting a lot of mints in right now, like peppermint and spearmint. If you guys like using spearmint in your drinks, always get Kentucky Colonial or Mojito. It's more of an English mint. It's a little bit bitter, but never put these in the ground. Put them in a little terracotta pot, like a 12-inch terracotta, and put it on your patio, and make sure they get regular water, but don't put them in the ground. They'll take over. That's the thing about mint. You're getting some good lavenders too. Which one is this? This is Provence. Provence is a good one if you like using it in teas or making your own salve and soaps. That's the good one for the oils. And so that's it for the herbs. You can still do basil from seed also. This is the large leaf, the Italian Genovese. Good one to use. Now it's time to plant it. So that's with herbs. Planting some of your flowers. I'm going to go through annuals. I'm going to tie in perennials and pollinators together. So I grabbed a bunch of those, and then I'll talk about fruit trees and fertilizing and roses. Okay, so the annuals that you're going to be planting right now. So, well, this is more of a mix actually. So annuals, your cosmos you can plant right now, sonatas. You can do your alyssum right now. Getting some good color packs of the dianthus. A lot of people think it's too late to be doing the violas. Now the violas can work on the coast, but if you're farther inland, it might get too hot. If you're farther inland, it's hotter, then just do the petunias because they're going to be coming in right now. We are seeing some summer stuff come in, like the gomphrenias. These are really cool. These will go all the way through summer. So even the little annual salvias, the mealy cup sage, this is Victoria Blue. That's a good one to plant right now. That will bloom all summer long. So you're starting to finally see some of the flowering annuals for summer. I think I even had, I had zinnias. So the zinnias are coming up. They're coming in. With zinnias, watch for mildew. Sometimes on the coast, if you have drizzly weather, the mildew can go after it. So if you guys ever have a problem with mildew, let me grab this real quick. This is called Rose 3-in-1 by Safer. So this has sulfur in it. Sulfur is a really good fungicide for mildew, and it works for rust too, but always grab the 3-in-1 because this has soap in it too, and it'll work for the aphids. So that's with that. So that's with the annuals. And so now we're going to go through, and we're going to go through the perennial pollinators. So I just left them on the cart because I break them into two categories. I go for the pollinators that the butterflies like, that's on the bottom, and then I go for the hummingbirds, the plants that are more. And the biggest thing when you're seeing the pollinator gardens, like for the butterflies and bees, they're always more of an open flower. If it's hummingbirds, it's going to have more of a long fluted flower. So that's one thing to take in mind. Like even these are your Gara, one of my favorite plants for butterflies and for bees. The yarrow. So the monarchs love the yarrow for a food crop, and so those are really good. I set some. I'll talk about the milkweed in a minute, but I'm going to go through the. You got the little lavenders, like your English lavender. This is which one is this? This is Vinthro 40 Blue, which is a little dwarf English lavender. You got some of the fleabane, like the Igroniums. These are cool. More of in a natural drop tolerant garden. I love butterfly bushes. Butterfly bushes, they'll get taller, 3 to 4 feet, but the butterflies love them. Buddleia Davidii. And I like it because the last name is Davidii, like David. I make myself laugh. I know not everybody laughs, but I laugh. Another one going through is your scabiosas, your little pincushion flower. The butterflies love these, the little skippers and all the butterflies, because they get the pollen right off the flower. So those are good. Got more yarrow, got more. One of my other favorite lavenders, I love French lavender. These get big. This is Lavandula dentata. They'll get 2 to 3 feet tall and about 3 to 4 feet wide, but really good variety. Like that for the pollinators. Getting into some other, here goes the white Gara. White Garas get pretty tall. Pinks usually stay smaller. White Garas can get about 3 by 3. But with Gara, cut it down to the ground every year. Once a year, cut it way back. Another plant that we're getting that comes from the southwest, it's called Sierra Sundrops. This is a really good one. This is Calilophus hartwigii, and so this is native to parts of Mexico, New Mexico, and Texas. I love the flowers. Cut it way back in the wintertime, but this is a good one. I love this. So Texas Gold, Sierra Sundrops, that's a good plant just to put anywhere in the yard, especially if you've got a hot yard. We're getting in some of the California poppies. You can plant them, but the one thing with California poppies, let them reseed and then they'll come up in your yard and they'll naturalize in your yard. So if you like the orange California poppies, if you plant one plant, you'll never have to buy seeds again. You'll just let them naturalize. Got some of the other yarrows. Which one is? This is a tall one. This is one of my favorite yarrows. It's called Moonshine. Moonshine's a big, bright yellow flower, but it's tall, like 2 feet by 2 feet. So that's with the butterflies. And another thing, when you're creating a pollinator garden, put out water for them too. This is a big thing. So sometimes I'll get a saucer and I'll fill it each day, and I'll put some rocks in it so they can sit on there. And that's one thing that's important too. Their food source, their water source, and then I'll talk a little bit about the milkweed, which is their larvae. That's what their larvae will feed off of. So before I go into hummingbirds, we're finally getting all of our milkweeds in. Now, the one thing with the California native milkweed, it takes a little bit longer to come in because it needs hotter weather. So this is a Schlepsius fascicularis, and fascicularis has a really wide range where it's native to in California. It will grow all the way into the middle part of the state, all the way down into Baja California. So this is your milkweed that the monarchs go after, and you cut it to the ground every year in late fall, and it'll come back now. But see how these are just coming back? So this is a good one. These are in little grow bags. You don't plant the whole thing, but now is the time to plant them because the monarchs are going to start coming out as we get warmer. So put them in a sunny location, not too much water, but that's important with them. Go for the natives. There's a couple other natives that we get, but I do like the fascicularis because that's the native that they seem to really go after around here. So that's the one. Come in, and I got the little 1 gallon grow bags that are nice. So moving on, we're going into the hummingbird pollinators. So one of the top hummingbird like the hummingbird plants where they go after the nectar are these Salvia gregis. This is a really neat color. This is more of a lavender. This is smoking lavender, and you don't see that many, but this is a really nice one. And the gregis get about 2 to 3 feet tall and about 2 to 3 feet wide. So good little bloomer through spring into summer. You do cut them back pretty good in the wintertime, but lavender, you don't see that color that much, and that's a good one. You got into the Greg. This is the red one. This is the autumn red sage, which is another Gregii, 2 to 3 foot tall. You get into these are more what they call the Wendy's Wish series, and these go more wider and more not as tall but more bushier. They sort of weep a little bit. They have that deeper pink flower, but look at those long fluted flowers. That's what the hummingbirds love because the nectar will sit in the back of that flower. And we've got the little fruit plants right here, little cigar plants that they love. And the hummingbirds are going to be out today because it's warming up, so the sun's starting to come out. This is another variety of lobelia that they really like, Laxiflora, which is a good one. Another perennial that you cut to the ground every year, good plant for the pollinators. This is an interesting one that's more for butterflies and bees. This is actually a cross between the native sunflower and the hybrid sunflower, and this is one. These are called Sunbelievables, and they don't get that tall, but good little bloomer, you know, a cross between the native and the hybrid. Cool little plant, Sunbelievables. And then you have the salvia. This is Mystic Spires. This is one of the salvias, though. The bees seem to like this more than the hummingbirds because the flower is pretty tight. So that one, that's with all your pollinators. I'm going to go into a little bit of perennials that I brought up. So it's a good time right now. Hollyhocks. Hollyhocks are starting to come in. Climb. You're going to have dwarfs. You're going to have tall. Sometimes they get rust near the coast, but you could spray them. Make sure they're in a sunny, hot location so the leaves dry out because they can get rust. So that's the little ground morning glory is the white flower. That's a good one. You know, good little perennial. We're getting our verbena now. Verbena is starting to finally come in now. Verbena is a ground cover that will bloom all the way through summer, and it's a great flower. It's a great little perennial. And these are a little sage called Nemorosa, the meadow sage. These only bloom in spring, but they'll come back throughout the year, so good for more of a natural garden. One of my other favorite perennials for the hummingbirds, they call this hummingbird mint. Agastaches. So plant agastaches right now. They're coming in. So another favorite that I got, and you don't see this in color packs too much. So this is electric blue. This is a variety of penstemon called heterophylla. So it's like Margarita Bob. It's a little penstemon that's actually a hybrid off a native. So you see these in color packs. Grab them. Electric blue. That's a good one. So we're getting Gerber daisies in. So the Gerbers are coming in right now. A lot of people have been asking for Gerbers. With Gerber daisies, remember, they're super finicky with water, so put them in a little terracotta pot. They need good drainage and don't overwater. the little angelonias, the summer snapdragons, we're going to start seeing them. These will bloom all the way through summer. They come in pinks and raspberries and whites and blues. So angelonia, summer snaps are coming in. Getting coreopsis, the tick seeds are coming in. So great perennial to plant right now. One of my favorites, it's real fragrant. I love the nemesias. So the nemesias are so great. Very fragrant, very good right now to put in. Let's go over roses a little bit, and then I'll probably talk a little bit about vines, and then I'll go through fertilizers a little bit too. So roses right now, you want to really right now is your best selection of roses. I have hybrid teas, I have floribundas, and some of my favorites. I love Yves Piaget, like a French Romantica. I like Peace. I do like a little floribunda called Disneyland. You guys ever seen Disneyland? It's a good one. It's a little like, it sort of fades to more of a sunset color, sort of orange pinky, but this is a good one. I love Disneyland. And with planting roses, one thing to remember is always prep the soil with a good planting mix to break the clay up. And I plant them a little farther. Most people say 2 feet. I put them 3 feet apart. But always make sure you're putting them in full sun. That's where they're not going to get any fungals. Where some people think they can get away with half day sun, you'll get mildew, you'll get rust. So put them in a hot location. Always make sure that you're watering them evenly. When it gets hot, you can actually mulch them. I don't start mulching yet, but usually by next month or July, that's when I start mulching more gardens. I want the soil to heat up right now, so that's why I'm not mulching. So the roses, like your climbers, I did bring up, let me see if I can get over here, because then I can tell you about, I love tree roses. So I did bring up a tree rose. I think this is, which one is this? This is Love Song. So this is Love Song. Let me see if it doesn't knock me over. This is a good rose right here. This is a little floribunda. And for a floribunda, it's very fragrant. Like, yeah, smell the fragrance on it. You guys can't, but I can. But the one thing even too, when you're really growing everything right now, like, you'll always want to go through and look at the flowers. Like, I'll touch them. You know, if they start flaking off or they start falling, then I will prune them. But these are pretty good. But normally what I would do is I would lift it up and prune the one right in the middle, because these are born in 3 to 5 flowers. So you can take your scissors, always cut the middle one out, but always hit them. Always touch them. You know, that way you can tell if they're dropping their leaves, then they're ready to come off. So I got some good tree roses. This is a 36, so time now to get your tree roses. So I'm going to have like a few different varieties, but we just got a good shipment. So now is the time to grab the tree roses. And with spraying them, I know I talked a little bit about the fungal sprays. This is the 3-in-1 for the rust and the mildew. Another one that I didn't bring up that I forgot, it's called spinosad, Captain Jack's. If you ever get the little bristly rose slugs that are eating the leaves of the roses, spray it once a month with Captain Jack's. And with fertilizing them, I like the down to earth. It's good fertilizer right here. You can use this on anything, perennial, roses. This is a good one. Now, last time you fed was probably in January, so now is the time we're getting ready to feed again, usually mid to late May. If you didn't use your Epsom salts, you want to use like 1 to 2 handfuls per plant. And I like to put this down before the fertilizer, and then I put the fertilizer over it. If your soil is bad, you can do the worm castings and the Malibu compost over it. But always work it in and only use about a handful or so, half a handful. Now this is a salt, so rake it in good, and then make sure you water good afterward. That's important with it. So sometimes I like to, my favorite hand tools I'll show you. I love this little hand rake. A lot of people don't realize with that, not for raking, but if you flip it over, you can scratch in the fertilizers and the worm castings. And one thing that's good about these, I like stainless steel tools. The iron tools are just going to rust away. I have one of these now that's going on 6 years, and it's still fine because it's stainless steel. The digging forks, again, if you look at it, stainless steel. So that's important if you invest in good gardening tools. This is a good little weeder right here if you have a problem with weeds. Little long-handed weeder. So that's good for that. And then moving on, let's talk a little bit about what did I do with the fruit trees here? Where did I put the fruit trees at? Did I put them over there? What did I do with the fruit trees? Oh, I put them on the other cart. Here, let me go get the other cart. I'm losing my mind over here. Right, Sabrina? I'm starting to lose my coconut. So now's the time to start planting your fruit trees. So this is a fig. This is one of my favorite figs. And so this is a really good one. So this is actually your Peter's honey fig. Good one to plant. If you want to keep them small, don't let them get big. One thing to remember with growing fruit trees in this area: peaches, plums, nectarines, low chill. You can always go into DaveWilsonNursery.com, look for low chill varieties that are 200 chill hours or less, because we don't get the cold. So some fruit bearing plants that are 4 or 5, that's inland, that's in December. You know, Riverside, like the red apples and the pears, where we do good with peaches, plums, nectarines, and figs, and blueberries too. You know, there's some blueberries also. And here you go. There's some blueberries. One of my favorites. Let's see if I got this one. No, I don't want to. This is one of my favorite blueberries. This is a dwarf variety called Bountiful Blue. Now, I do blueberries in containers. I use a good potting soil, like the Malibu potting soil. Got to have good drainage with blueberries. You can put them in raised beds, but the key thing is the acidity. They need that acid. So it's very important that you keep on using coffee grounds, cottonseed meal, down-to-earth acid fertilizer every 6 weeks when it's hot, because you're going to leach out that acidity has to be low. Our water will bring the pH back up. So that's important with blueberries. And you don't prune them until after they're done flowering and fruiting. So most blueberries will fruit anywhere from June into August. Trim them lightly after they're done fruiting. So they fruit off of the new growth, and that growth dies out. You cut that back, and then it will shoot new growth. That's what they're going to flower on next year. So that's important with blueberries. And then even you can plant grapes right now. We're getting a lot of the zestful grapes in full sun. Make sure that you're really putting them in a hot area though, because if they're too shady, they're going to get mildew. So on the coast, no shade, all sun. So that's for all your grapes. Planting too for blackberries. Get them in before we get hot. I don't really plant that many raspberries here because we don't have high chill, but I do like the blackberries. There's a thornless one I like called black satin. So that's a good one. Blackberries need a lot of water, so make sure that they have a rich soil in the ground that gets regular water. You can mulch them when it gets hotter. I don't really cut them back much because I let them really grow, and then if a cane dies back, I'll cut that one. I always sort of watch to see which cane is dying, because I don't cut them all the way to the ground here because we don't get cold enough. We don't have to cut them back so hard. So, you know, that's important with them. Another thing too, I'm going to talk about strawberries and a little bit about feeding, and then we'll go. So strawberries, now's the time to get your strawberries in before it gets hot. What I do, and I know it's going to shock you, I like the everbearing types. Like I like Seascape, Chandler, and Ozark Beauty. If they're fruiting a lot in a container, what I'll do is, I know you guys are going to fall over when I do this, but I literally will cut this flower or pull it off, and I can eat this one. This is a good fruit. But what I do is I don't want it to fruit when it's still little. I want this to grow. So very important. Don't let them fruit so much when they're little. Like this is a nice healthy Chandler. Plant them in full sun. Fertilize them really good. Plant the crown above the soil. Like, see, like that. That's perfect planting depth. Don't cover that crown because you rot them out. And they want good draining soil. But if they're starting to flower in a container, they're getting root bound. So pick those flowers off. You want this plant to grow bigger before it starts fruiting. When it's smaller, if it fruits, it's just going to throw out runners and only give you a couple of fruits. So pick those flowers off. This is Ozark Beauty, another good everbearing type. And fertilize, cottonseed meal, a vegetable. One of my favorite fertilizers, I love the all-purpose on everything. I use this on everything, vegetables, fruit trees. Now, on citrus, I will use a citrus food because those want higher minerals. So all-purpose, love this one. I will add extra calcium, usually fish bone meal, when I'm doing my tomatoes. So that's important. But one thing that I do a lot is I feed really heavy, And this is the way I fertilize my garden. I put my compost in, I put my Malibu in, I put my worm castings in, I work it all in, I put my fish bone meal in. I feed really heavy when I plant, and then I'm using the compost teas. So this is the fruiting one. So this is just looks like a commercial tea bag. Steep that in water, squeeze it, let it steep for 2 to 3 days, and then water it into the garden. And sometimes you get about five things out of this, or five containers out of this to water into your garden. But the compost tea, they take it up very quick like an energy drink. And I'll do that every 2 to 3 weeks. When I see most of the fruit-bearing plants start to fruit, then I stop feeding. Another good one that I like, BioLive. This is if you have a really new garden, you want to get the beneficial funguses going. So this has mycorrhizae in it, and the mycorrhizae are really good to help things break down, help nutrients break down. And then the rose, like this was the rose fertilizer that I showed you earlier. Good on anything. You could use it on all the perennials. So I think that's about as much. I guess one more thing I didn't talk about is for the snails and slugs. It's going to be a bad year because we've gotten so much rain. We needed the rain, but the snails and slugs, I was cleaning out my garden yesterday. So Sluggo. Sluggo is an iron phosphate. Safe to use around pets. It's just an iron source. Sprinkle it around the garden, wet the garden, and when they cross this, they absorb it. It's toxic to them, but it's not toxic to anything else. So this is the only one you can use in an edible vegetable garden around fruit trees because it's iron. It's not methaldehyde based. So very important. Sluggo. So that's one that I use for snails and for slugs. For aphids, I know aphids are going to probably be bad as we warm up. I just use an organic soap. I use the oil spray, and that's pretty much the extent of my talk for today. Now it's question time.
So there hasn't been too many questions. Just the one of, we do actually have a website. It's rogersgardens.com. It'll have a lot of our live videos sometimes up there, how-to videos, everything like that. Let me go back here. Yeah, and it looks like that was our only question for right now.
If you guys have questions on this, you can always look at some of my prior videos. Come in and talk to us. Either I'm here every day of the week. I'm off on Thursday, Fridays. My name is David Rizzo, and come in and talk to me. You can call me. You can come in. And so you can look up our websites on updates and see what's going on, but I'm always up in the edible area. I'm always up near the front if you guys come in and want to see me. Okay? Bye, guys. Happy gardening. David Rizzo signing out for today.
Thank you for joining us.